Welcome everyone to the webinar today, the good, the bad, and the better side of SAP IDM, rapid deployment solutions provided by IBsolution. My name is Tolo Petrov, and together with my colleague Simona Lincheva, we're going to walk you through our experience in projects with IDM over the last couple of years, where we have found a lot of good things that IDM can do, a lot of bad things that it can't do, and things which we have strived to improve and created those rapid deployment solutions to improve that bad side and make it a better side of SAP IDM. The webinar is targeted, of course, to everyone who has something to do with IDM and strives to improve their efficiency and, of course, reduce their maintenance and support costs for identity management. So I think this webinar will bring you some very interesting information and probably some interesting topics to think about regarding your IDM installation. What you're going to learn is, as I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to look at what IDM can do out of the box when you get the license from SAP and you install it. What are the things which you probably can do without any external help? There are some things which are simply missing or working in a, let's say, unexpected way. So this is the kind of the bad side. And then we're going to look at the different solutions that we provide to improve that functionality or to add missing functionality where it's not present. If you pay close attention to the webinar, you'll be able to answer the questions which come up at the end, and each one of you will receive a survey at the end of the webinar where they have to answer 7 out of 8 questions correctly to receive a special certificate which basically certifies that you have completed this course. As I mentioned, my name is Tolo Petrov. I'm the Senior Vice President of Consulting in IBsolution Bulgaria, and my colleague Simona Lincheva helped me to prepare the demos of the different solutions which I'm going to show today. So thanks to Simona once again. The agenda, we're going to start with a very short introduction to SAP IDM standard solution features, and probably you already know most of them because this webinar is mostly dedicated to people who already have IDM running or let's say at least tried some of the features in a sandbox mode. We're going to talk about the restrictions and the missing functionality which we have managed to find, as I said, during our implementation projects. Then we're going to talk about the RDS packages that IBsolution provides in order to fill these gaps, and of course demo scenarios and questions and answer sessions at the end. So our experience has shown that we can mostly split the standard features of SAP IDM into 4 categories. One would be, of course, automation. This is the category everybody who try to implement IDM mostly strive for automation, meaning automatic provisioning of privileges to different target systems. And this is what IDM does very well. It's an there are some out-of-the-box provisioning frameworks which are provided for different solutions. Of course, they cannot cover all. There is a standardized SAP HR sync, which is also provided, which can be configured to sync your employees out of the SAP HR world into IDM. There are some notifications and translations, user interface and cockpits, the star which you see there and also in the other squares means that this is a feature which is available from IDM 8 And you know the most common version so far is IDM 7, either 7, okay, 7.1 not that much, but 7.2 with different service specs. And IDM 8 is the new release that's since last year available on the market. So if you are possessing that license, then the star is also available for you. Of course, simplified GRC integration is something also which is quite important for most customers, to integrate the delivery of privileges together with GRC checks in order to make sure that everything is compliant. Another category which is quite important is, of course, centralization. Every one of you, I suppose, would be happy to have one central point where they can check all the access that a certain employee in the company has. And this central point of access storage would be identity management. So you can store the master data. Of course, the source of the master data could be any other system, but still after the sync, the actual place where everything is coming together is identity management. Of course, not only the master data, but also the access to all the different systems that are connected to IDM. We're going to look also into a solution later where we have managed to provide also information about access to systems which are even not connected to our identity management directly, but indirectly. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, how we managed to achieve it, so that really IDM is the one and only point of truth about user access, independent if this was something related to his hardware, for example, like his laptop, mouse, USB stick or whatever, or a system that provides like SAP or Active Directory or any other system, third-party system, which is not, as I said, even connected to identity management. So this is, of course, a very useful information, and we'll talk about it, how we managed to achieve that. There is some centralized reporting, which is quite basic, but it's provided out of the box. So if you want to use that, you can do that, of course. Providing HTML and PDF reports. And the lifecycle management, this is a very crucial feature which was missing in Identity Management 7. And I really mean it was missing. Okay, you were able to really transport things between systems, which is not really a lifecycle management, but you were not able to really trace what was happening. This is now available in IDM 8, and it's much better than it was before. So another point is flexibility. Of course, the solution is quite flexible in terms of for example, user interfaces which are covering some simple tasks. They are out of the box there and can be customized quite easily. You can build your own user interfaces without really any proper knowledge of any programming language. Just using the Identity Management Console in version 7 or the plugin for Eclipse in version 8. So unfortunately, the things which you can generate are WebDynpro user interfaces and no SAP UI5 or any mobile-enabled interface, which is kind of a drawback at the moment. Another very nice feature is the standardized REST services, which are, of course, available for every user interface task which you create, or also automatically generated for every entity type that you create. So it doesn't matter if it's your custom or any standard one, you have a REST service that you can use in order to create new entities or to manipulate in some way the user interface data without actually opening the UI. Another very nice feature which is available from IDM 8 is the visual workflow editor, because as most of you probably know, IDM has its own workflow. By far, by IDM 7, there was no visual editor for that. There is such in IDM 8. The last box of features, more or less, is that the framework for the IDM solution is quite open. Open means you are able to extend it, and that's what we actually used in order to build our rapid deployment solutions. It's an open connector framework, and this you probably know already because you see how many connectors there are in the market which are provided by other providers and not by SAP directly. And you're also able, if you have the resources and the knowledge, of course, to build your own connectors for your own systems, which are, if they are kind of specific and not supported by the standard. There are also some two connectors provided for additional reporting, like the standard BW connector, which is also available in 7 IDM, and the Lumira connector, which is available from IDM 8. So much for the features which we already know. Let's talk about a little bit about the features which we don't know because they're missing, or we somehow solve them with other means because they are not part of the standard. One of the things which we have found, especially in the last few years, like maybe 2 years, is that okay, we have the flexibility of the UI which we have spoken about, but this flexibility is bringing us only WebDimpro user interfaces, which, as you most probably know, are starting to become quite outdated. So, of course, one nice feature which we would like to have would be to use the same approach, which is, I would say, not a bad approach. It's very easy to configure a user interface. But this user interface, at the end, we would like to have it as SAP UI5. So this is one thing which is missing. The password reset user interfaces, I would say, are also quite outdated. They look more like let's say 5 to 10 years ago relevant, and this is something which we also addressed, and you see our solution to that problem. And of course, a comprehensive self-service. The self-service solution, which is provided also out of the box in IDM, in our humble opinion, is also not the best one, and very hard to customize and not very dynamic. It's let's say a static user interface which cannot react to specific properties or specific actions of the end user, which is a pity. Another drawback which we see from using the IDM standard workflow would be that it's not so easy to integrate with other third-party systems, and this sometimes is quite crucial for the workflow because, okay, if you want to build a simple workflow with 2, 3, or as many levels of approvals as you want, yes, this is possible with IDM workflow. But if you want to connect any third-party systems into the process and have some complex approvals and maybe going back from one approval back to the requester to ask them for more information, and this information you want to store it somewhere, and you want to build some customizable workflows which don't require any additional development at the point of time, and you can customize them to a certain extent, and probably include business rules, like for example, you know probably about BRM, where you can actually create business data outside of the process so that the information can be maintained without changing the process itself. Then the task becomes a little bit more complex. I don't say it's impossible, but actually it's becoming quite complex. And here I'll also talk about later how we managed to solve this. And so far there were some features which we either couldn't find or they're very well hidden into the infrastructure of the identity management, and those are, for example, any kind of mass functions which are, let's say, you would like to massively give permissions to 100 users because they change their role or they merge into another company or whatever, for whatever reason. You want to lock, for example, a whole department because they breached some kind of security features and you don't know exactly who from that department did that, so you simply lock them all until investigation is going. And things like this, things which require mass operations. Another thing would be, for example, the business roles lifecycle, where really creating business roles or using business roles in general in identity management is not so popular among companies that implement IDM, exactly for that fact that it's really complex to first build and then maintain those roles in a very easy way, I would say. So here this big problem, because business roles are actually meant to simplify things, and using them really makes assignments and especially automation very easy job. And we will see how this is achieved with one of our rapid deployment solutions. Another feature which we would wish for to be standard, but it's actually not, is the integration of SOAP web services. And you know, in a service-oriented architecture like NetWeaver, for example, web services like SOAP are something very common, and they provide a lot of features which remain unavailable for identity management. And the reason for that is that you would have to really implement scripts for every single web service that you would like to integrate and do some custom coding, and it's really a hard job to do. And that's why we have created a generic way in which you can simply create one template from a template which we provide you, and then you simply import any kind of web service in your identity management console, and you can use the functionality of the SOAP web service as it is without actually changing anything. And that's a very nice feature. Okay, then once in a while we would like, of course, to make quick checks if really our IDM and our HR system, for example, are in sync, or maybe we have missed some error log and at some point of time our users are not in sync anymore. And the easiest way to do that is by far simply by logging into the IDM system, finding a user, then finding the same user in the HR system and comparing those mostly manually, or in the best case by copying them in Excel or something like that, doing a lookup. So we decided that this is not a good approach, and we have invested some time into building a report that actually runs for you every night and provides you in the morning with a report that focuses your attention on things like differences between different systems, for example, Active Directory, IDM, and HR, and focuses your attention on properties of the user that are different across those systems. What you are going to do with those differences is up to you, but the report is giving you this information more or less live, and you can make up your mind if you would like to reschedule some sync jobs, or if you would like to leave it that way. It's up to you. The last thing which I would like to mention here is the maintenance of external users which are not part of your central employee system, being HR or SAP HR, any other HR system, or for example Active Directory. And you would like to maintain, however, external users. This trend which is running now in the whole world, that a lot of companies are hiring externals which are with temporary contracts running let's say 3 to 6 months in the company, then probably becoming a real employee, or being released from their contract, then being rehired after 1 year. So all this life cycle and all these actions which you can do with those external users are not handled in any specific way in IDM, but we thought that it would be a good idea to actually handle them in a specific way, and to have a repository similar to the SAP HR that contains all the information, like, for example, history of that user. You can easily hire him, rehire him, or send him into, they also have maternity leave. There are also people, you know, although they're external users. Okay, anyway, so those are the things which we have identified as some small gaps. And of course, the things which we have decided is that it would make sense to invest some time and build some rapid deployment solutions that will bring things to a better state. And this is what we came up with: a list of Actually, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, yes. So 8 rapid deployment packages, which each one of them provides a unique functionality for IDM, which is currently not available, or is available but requires a lot of effort to be maintained. And we are going to talk about most of them in our, actually for all of them, but we have demos for most of them. I'm going to go very quickly over each one of them, and then we're going to go into detail. So the authorization matrix is your solution for controlling the business roles lifecycle, the assignments within IDM, and it provides a validation rules and version management, so you can have a history of what kind of business roles were created and how they were changed in the past and so forth. You're going to see in the demo be more clear. The password self-service is a one central user interface, or one central cockpit, where each user logs in with his password if he wants to change it. And automatically all the systems for which this user has access are being provided in this user interface, and he can password reset his he can change his password for any of those systems or for all of them together. And of course, there's the same user interface is used also if the user forgot his password, so he wants to reset his password. But then, of course, in this case, he or she doesn't have to log in and use the password reset without any authentication, simply to reset his central access, for example, in Active Directory. The integrity check report is the report of which I've told you in the previous slide, where you can compare master data across multiple systems and make sure that it's correct. The short abbreviation MUDA, or Master User Data Administration, is actually handling all the mass actions in one also central cockpit, where you can simply log in and do all the mass actions that you need to do. We're going to see that also in a demo. The external users cockpit is user interface for more or less handling external users and contractors, as I told you, their life cycle from hiring to termination, or maybe then rehiring them. So this is more or less like an external HR, more or less, for IDM. The access self-service is also something very interesting. It's the concept which we think is the right one for handling self-service requests in identity management, and we're going to talk about it also in a second. Notifications cockpit, this is like also a user interface that gives you the possibility to maintain your notification texts in multiple languages and assign them to different actions that happen in IDM. So it's really a very intuitive solution that helps you maintain your notifications within the identity management. And the last one, of which I also spoke in the previous slide, is the SAP Web Service Integrator, which gives you the possibility to use any web services, SAP web services, which you already have within your organization, within IDM, for purposes of your liking, more or less. All right, so let's start. I'm just going to go over the most important packages with the demos we have, and then we'll see if we have time. I'm going to come back and demo also for the remaining time some others which are I would say not so important, but they're, let's say, smaller impact on the IDM. So first, starting with the authorization matrix. Each one of the rapid deployment solutions are split into 3 areas, which you see on the screen. So the first area on the left side is actually the job that you have to do most of the time. So this is just, of course, an example. So most of the times you have the task to start using business roles in identity management, or to maintain business role assignments, or to make sure that there are no duplicates within your business roles, for example, that you don't have any specific privileges which are, let's say, forbidden, like SAP O in any of your business roles, and somebody would simply go in and assign a SAP O privilege into one of the business roles, and then you can imagine what kind of impact that could have. And there is really no actual validation for that. If you have the respective privileges to log into your IDM console, then you can probably actually do everything. So this is a big problem. Another thing is that from our experience, it shows that quite often business roles change, and they change for many reasons, like for example, they need to add some new privileges to them, or to remove some deprecated privileges, or to change assignments of people, and some other people are joining the company and they require some new business roles. So this is something which is not a static object in IDM. The business role is something which is quite dynamic, and dynamic things need very good maintenance tool in order to keep them in sync, and that's what we're going to show you. The second rectangle on the right hand side is giving you more or less different solutions to the job which you have on the left hand side. And of course, one possible solution would be to create the business roles manually using the standard IDM features, just by logging in the console, creating a new business role, attaching the different privileges to this business role. But as I said, all of this is happening without any kind of validation or any kind of restriction. Once you have the access to the IDM console, you can do everything. Another more, let's say, intelligent way or more automated way of doing this would be using IDM scripts, but these scripts are most of the times quite complex. They need also their respective maintenance, and they need also to be adapted from time to time. So this is also a solution which is, let's say, not very flexible. The star in all those solutions represent, from our perspective, the most common solution before any of our customers moved to our rapid deployment solution. So this is actually, the star represents the solution which we found in the IDM system before the customer decided to move to the rapid deployment solution from our side. And the most common in this case is using CSV files, which are somehow stored on a server and then changed very rarely, because most companies are afraid that if they change something in the wrong way, then the whole IDM will block. And there is a good reason for that, to be afraid. So it's also not a very good solution, but at least it's a transparent solution, so you see what's in the CSV file. That's what I'm going to have also in my IDM, and you have it in one file, which is also not a bad solution. However, it was not good enough for us, and we decided to create the so-called Authorization Matrix rapid deployment solution, which brings you the following benefits. So first, it has validations and integration checks against IDM. So first, you're not logging into a standard IDM console, rather you're logging in just to a user interface. And this user interface connects directly to IDM and does the proper checks, like for example, if you want to add a privilege to a specific business role, then it checks if this privilege actually exists, because you cannot check that in the CSV file. In the CSV file, you just type the text and that's it. So it checks this. You can also add checks for some forbidden privileges, like, as I said, SAP O. So if you do that, it will tell you that you cannot add this privilege to a business role. Actually, what it does is also it has a full versioning of all the matrices that have been created for a respective organization. So, for example, you can create the first version of the matrix, then update it with the next version, and then update it with another version. And all those versions are going to be stored, and you'll be able to have control, and you have an audit trail of what was changed in each one of these respective matrices that were uploaded. There is a flexible definition of the business role keys, and for those of you who are not familiar with the business role concept, I would just say very shortly what's the idea of the business role key. Is that you can decide that any of the parameters that a certain person has in his master data in identity management is a business role key. One possible solution would be, let's say, to take the position ID or the position description or the abbreviation of the position or any other property that identifies exactly how this person is doing his job and putting him in some kind of a frame. And this frame is actually the business role. So every time a certain person is hired, let's say from HR or from Active Directory, then automatically those attributes will be matched to the business role key. And if this person is matching a certain business role key description, then this role with all its privileges for all the different respective systems, for example, SAP Active Directory, Outlook, or any other system, will automatically be provisioned without any manual interaction. So those privileges are something like pre-approved privileges that are part of a business role which is set as a template for this person in order for him to be able to do his job. Of course, if for some reason companies would like to put an additional level of approval after this person is matched against those business role keys, that's also possible, but this is part of the process, not part of the rapid deployment solution. Okay, the good part is that whenever you change those business roles in the authorization matrix, then all this information is triggered back into IDM, and IDM is doing its respective provisioning. So if you change a business role which is already attached to a person, then automatically this person will receive the additional privileges, or respectively will be removed from the privileges which you have changed in the authorization matrix. There is also a delta load, so you don't have to really upload every time a new matrix, rather just do the changes which you would like to do for that matrix and then save it. This is quite beneficial because we have customers with matrices which are ranging from 70,000 lines of privileges for a business for different business roles, to also hundreds of lines. So this is, you can imagine, it's quite a big load. And the good part is there is no size restriction actually. So you can also create matrices if you want with 1 million lines of code of different assignments. This is up to you. It depends really on the organizational structure that you have. So with this said, let's just focus now on the demo. All right. So you see, this is the start user interface. This one is built with SAP UI5, and so it's also mobile and tablet enabled. And you see 5 cards which are handling some specific tasks. So for example, the first card is going to give you the technical names which are used in a matrix. So more or less we're going to show you how you're going to basically configure a matrix, but before that we're going to look at the existing matrices. So you see we are now looking at the existing matrices, and there are some, you see the technical name in the beginning, there's a template which is also shown when it was started for the last time, when it was finished, when it was created, and some comments. And of course the status, which is quite important, is that some matrices could be only saved in this tool but not uploaded to identity management. So then in this case the status would be saved. If you already uploaded the matrix into the IDM, then it's okay. And once we select any of those matrices, and we can see on the bottom the actual privileges that are attached, and you see the first column actually is the key column, and that's why it's colored in blue. In this case, the identity type of the employee is what is the key column. And you see we support actually also context-based assignments, so if you would like to use that, it's possible. In this case there is no context-based assignment, rather there is a business role called student business role, and it's attaching system and privileges from system BAMMD 220, and the privilege is called maintain master or end user, traveler, whatever. So you can maintain very easily all the needed privileges which you need for the respective business roles. As you see, of course, each business role is a mashup of different privileges, so you can have SAP, you can have Active Directory, Google, or whatever, any kind of information or any kind of assignment of system which is available in IDM can be done within this this tool. As I said, the information is coming from IDM directly, and you can see, for example, here in the context, this drop down is automatically taken out of the available context attributes in identity management, so you cannot make a mistake here by assigning something which is not available. Also, here is the different systems you can see automatically taken out of the IDM, and you can change them very easily. We support also different privilege types, for example, a role, a group, profile, or a function set. And of course, another thing which is very important is that you can set your parameters directly in the user for which this business role is going to apply. So here basically you see all the parameters available to a certain person, and you can change any of these parameters based on that business role. All right, so how complex is it actually to create such a template? Of course, you can also download everything here as an Excel for your internal reference. But let's see in the beginning how complex it is actually to build a matrix. So first, we're going to create a new technical name. Okay, call it test demo matrix. Okay, so this is step one. Then we have a list of matrix attributes, which of course we can reuse in order to attach them to our matrix. But what we're going to do is just to create another one, just for the sake of showing you that you can simply create a new one, like demo attributes. And the name of the technical name which you see here is actually representing either a real attribute name in your identity management or an attribute name that is part of the matrix itself. So we created one additional attribute, but this is not the most important thing. Then what we can do is also create additional context attributes if you want, and that's also very easy. You just simply create a new one, give it a name, and then decide which attribute is going to be used. And this is our new attribute which we have just defined. Then you have to select an operator, like what kind of value this should have. And then you see if the demo context, demo attribute has a value test, then automatically this context will be assigned. All right, and then of course the last step would be simply to create a new matrix. Okay, we pick our new technical name, test demo matrix. We pick a template from the existing templates. We didn't create a new template because this would have taken too much time. So we pick up a new template, existing template, and more or less we are done. So what we can do, of course, is we can the matrix in the beginning is empty, but what we can do is we can simply take one of the Excel files that we have exported, or we can prepare a new one, and then we can upload it with Excel, and then we have our matrix more or less ready. And once you click on validate and save, then the matrix will be sent to IDM, and we'll do the respective changes in the backend. All right. So much for the metrics. We can answer some questions later in the Q&A, because I'm sure probably you have some of your own. Let's move forward with the password self-service. So what's the idea behind? Again, I'm not going to explain the format of the slide. On the left-hand side, you have the job. On the right-hand side, you have possible solutions and the benefits. So one of the things, of course, which we try to achieve here is to have a one-stop shop for anything related to password, either password change or password reset for all of the different systems. And I'm going to just jump to the demo, and there I'm going to explain the rest of the things which you see also here. So what's so special about the password self-reset? So what's the idea here is that we have, this is the solution where we have password reset. So you can just enter your user, and then you have some robot protection in case somebody tries to attack your website, because this is actually something which is not staying behind a protected entry like a password or something like that. So if you, of course, make a wrong entry like this case, then it gives you that the captcha is wrong. If you put the right one, then you are receiving an email, and in this email there's a link, and only after you click on that link the password is being started, opening actually the absolutely same UI. And you see here password reset in progress. So this is actually resetting your password, so you're able to actually open the password reset tool into already logged in mode. So you're actually now logged in. You are in the network, in the corporate network, and then you see automatically on the left hand side all the systems which are available for you to reset your password. And here you have to decide, of course, what your new password is going to be. And you see that the Active Directory is being grayed out because it's actually the system which is used in order to access this user interface. So in order, of course, to access this user interface, you need to first reset the password there. And that's why it's grayed out, so you cannot really deselect it. But we can deselect any of the other systems because we don't want to reset our password, for example, there. And once we click on Reset Account, we only have to fill in our new password, repeat it, make sure it's the same. Again, a protection from captcha. And the nice thing here is that you get an automatic feedback what is actually happening. You see all those systems which you have selected are getting into a in progress status, and those that are already the password is already changed are becoming available again, and you see on top the whole progress bar is changing from 50% and then until all of the systems are reset. And once they are done, then you are able actually to use your new password in all of the systems. What we're going to show now is in case you would like to change your password, of course we are logging again to absolutely the same user interface, with the only difference that you see right now, you don't have any blocked systems. You can decide to change your password in any of the systems you would like. What we're going to do is simply to change it in all of them. And of course, in this case, we have to type our old password. Here, the good thing is that we have validations. So all the password policy validations that are available in Identity Management are also available here. So you don't really have to worry about not typing the right password or not typing the complex enough password or whatever. Everything is here, so there are different validations. Of course, the most easy ones are just that the new passwords are not matching, or maybe that your old password is not the right one. So once you have fixed all that and all the capital letters and special characters and letters and symbols and so forth, then you are going to be able to reset your passwords. And this is as easy as that. You just click on Reset, and again, the process repeats. All those systems get in progress, and password is being reset using the Identity Management standard connectors to those systems. So really very easy to integrate solution, because as I said, it's using absolutely IDM standard functionality, very flexible, because all the information that you see is coming out of IDM, and also very dynamic because it's dependent on on the information or on the accounts that a certain user has. So it's also available on mobile. So something which is, I would say, much more advanced than what IDM provides standard out of the box. All right, moving forward, integrity check report. Again, I'm going to stick to the demo and explain on the run. As I explained you in the beginning, this is something which is a report currently between HR, IDM, and Active Directory. And you see there is a calendar which is showing you on which dates this report was ran. And the special dates, of course, like for example the 16th, are marked, so you know that on that date there was a report that was run, and actually you see there are 2 reports that were run. And this gives you also a very an overview of the report if any inconsistencies were found or everything was okay. So if everything was okay, you don't really need to go further. But as you see in these reports, there were inconsistencies that were found, and once you click on them, you can view those inconsistencies. And actually what you see is that from the 3 systems, there is some data which is available only in one of them. The dashes means that everything is the same. So you see there is no user ID in any of the systems, which is fine. If that makes sense is another question. But for example, here in the one of the last lines, you see there is a user that has a user ID in HR, but not in IDM and not in Active Directory. So you see there are sometimes there are other students which have both in HR and IDM, but not in Active Directory. But all of them are marked in red because those are differences. If you would like, of course, there is a possibility also to filter. So if you're looking for a very particular person or very particular information which you would like to choose, then it's possible to filter. And of course, it's also possible to look into more details about the respective problem. So once you click on the problem, you see a more detailed view where, okay, HR shows a user ID, title, there are some first name and last name, and those are absolutely not available in IDM or Active Directory for some reason. You can download that, so that's fine. And of course, here we're going to show also how to do the filter. So you have to pick up any of the properties which you see on the screen that you would like to filter. So for example, we're going to pick up the manager, but the manager is all empty, so here it doesn't make too much sense. Let's pick the title. So we're looking for a title, which is, let's say, a specific one. And you see automatically after the filter, we see only those values which are interesting for us, and then we can take some action. So more or less, that's it. A very small, but I think very useful tool, which helps you to keep your master data in sync, and also show you if you have some problems in the master data between your important systems like HR and Active Directory. All right. The mass user data administration, that's also a very interesting tool. As I told you, mass functionality is generally missing from the standard functionality of IDM. So that's why we provided a cockpit where you're able simply to do all those 3 things which you see on the screen, like the master data update, the master access update, and the mass user lock and lock. So how this is done, it's also quite easy. What you do is simply you select which of the properties you would like to display for a certain person. Then you can define a filter, and we're going to look for users. And you see automatically this is data coming from IDM. So you have the attributes which we have selected, in this case FS job ID, last name, first name. And we have the possibility, of course, to add additional filters. And what we would like to have is that we are looking for users which have only D007 in their name. So now we have reduced the amount, so we can go in the table below and enter our data which we would like to change. And also we have provided a very easy to use replace all functionality, meaning that you can select any data from any attribute and replace it with another value. And for example, here you see that all of these can be changed very easily. And once you're ready, you simply have to click on submit. And normally most reasons are connected to providing some kind of a reason, because that's of course quite important. So once you provide the reason, you get a request ID, and this request ID you see on the right hand side is waiting for processing, so it's asynchronous user interface. You can continue working in any other of the different tabs, and we'll see how this is done right now. We're going to check first, because of course everything is connected back to IDM, so we can check first if our request has been completed. It has been not, so we're going to wait. In the meantime, we're going to do some access updates. We're going to look for some people, like for example A001, and then we're going to assign some privileges and some business roles, so whatever we would like to assign, those are coming directly also from Identity Management. And there's a validity date period from 2, and once we assign those, you see the assignments are shown in the table with the validity and the respective roles and the username. And we can also submit that request, provide some reason, and also the same way as before, we get a request which is waiting to be processed. Then we simply go forward. We would like to lock or unlock some people. So we just select again for these people, they're not locked currently, and we're looking for locked people, so we're going to look for unlocked. So there we go. Their status is unlocked, and we're going to lock them. And we get also another number for that. Now we go back to the first, and we click on refresh, and you see the status of this request has been finished. So this means IDM has processed this request. And if we go back to the request, you see also that there is a lock that shows actually what has been changed for the respective user. And this was one of the users for which we have put user and first name and last name as attributes. The same for the file. We also provide a complex way of doing mass changes. So, for example, if you don't want to use any of the previous UIs, you can simply have an Excel file and then upload this data to the user interface. Of course, there are validations, and you'll see that right now. For example, the user, we are trying to unlock him, but he's already unlocked. So you see, even that kind of validations are possible. And there's also another error, for example, that the user D277VV is not existing, and we're trying to do something for him. So this is also not possible. We have to take action on those one. So we can remove them and then submit. Again, the same processing is happening. We're getting a request ID. We're going to check now our assignments. So you see the assignments are done, and here is the result. The person has 4 rows, and we can also go and check that in Identity Management. Those 4 rows, we are simply going to look them in the person. So here they are. You see they are also attached to the person. Okay, so we're going to the lock solution. The lock person, he's not locked yet, because the request is not done yet. But once the request is completed, it takes some time. Okay, it's done. So let's go back and check that again, and the person should be already locked. Yeah, there it is. All right. So basically, this is how it works. And let's move forward. I think we're going to I'm going to show just one more demo, and because our time is running up. So the external users cockpit, as I mentioned before, is simply the central place where you maintain your external users instead of maintaining them directly in IDM or in any other, maybe in your HR directly. If you don't want to do that, you have that possibility to maintain users which are external or contractors outside of your core HR solution. The Access Self-Service, as I mentioned, gives you the possibility to have complex approval workflows, and the solution which we use for approvals is Business Process Management. So it's another workflow solution from SAP. We have integration, ready to run integration with Business Process Management and Identity Management. And if the Identity Management workflow is not sufficient for you, is not bringing you sufficient functionalities, then definitely Business Process Management can answer your needs in that term. Okay, then the SAP Web Service Integrator is the last thing which I'm going to show you very quickly. It's also a very interesting solution. For example, here we have a web service which we are running from the Web Service Navigator. It's a very simple service which is not doing much. Then actually we are putting some input values, and then we're getting the same output back. So this is one example. I'm going to show you in a second also another one. So how we're going to integrate that into Identity Management? We need a global constant, which is simply giving us the path where this web service is going to store its data. So this is nothing really complicated. You just put in a path in your server where data from this rapid deployment solution is going to be stored. Then you go to the job folder, and what you do is simply create, of course, a new folder. That's fine. And then you import a predefined template, which we provide you, of course. And this template contains some special properties. Like here, for example, it's very easily recognizable what you have to do. Simply replace the WSDL URL in the value. So you click here, replace it. And then what you have to do is attach, of course, a dispatcher and run it. So once you run it, the metadata of the web service is being retrieved and stored in the location which you have specified in your folder. So we open the folder again, and you see there are files inside, and those files are basically the input and output parameters automatically generated in the right format for you. So once you open this file, you simply have to copy those and then paste them in the input of the web service. And you see automatically the format is there. You don't really have to touch anything. Of course, what you have to do is enter the values which you would like to have for the respective parameters. And what you see here is that automatically it also recognizes different types which you have. So here, for example, we have to provide for the integers an integer and for the string value. And once you save that, you can copy the output. Again, no changes needed, just copy and paste. Okay, then you save that one too. And then you're ready to run it again. Okay, so the idea here is that we're going to store this information in a table in IDM. So you see the table name WS from test table. All right, we're going to delete the table before we do that. And let's run it again. Let's look at the job log. Okay, it's done. And so now we have to go into the database and check it and run that, and there you go. So we have 1, 2, 3 and test 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is exactly what we have typed. The table is there, and the information from our web service has been stored. Okay, what you might think is, okay, this was a very simple example, but okay, let's open now a much more complex web service. So you see that it actually works absolutely the same for everything. So this one is a web service that is actually inserting information into one of our other solutions called the queue. So we have a queue which is processing different data inside, and you see it's a relatively complex web service. So once we're going to run it from here, and running it from here is automatically going to populate that table with a one entry, which is test from web service. And what we're going to do now is call the exactly same web service from Identity Management. So we're going to import our 2 pass job, we're going to create a constant. Of course, this is something very important. We support basic authentication, so this means if your web service is secured, then you have a user and password. So we can type that here. Okay. And of course, what we have to do is put the WSDL URL, of course, that's clear, and run it again with the dispatcher attached. Okay, then the same way we get the input and an output from all the methods that we have inside the web service. So we pick the method that we need and we just copy and paste it. So you see a lot of parameters. Each one of these parameters has different values and different types. And once we maintain those, you see we're going to store, actually, we're going to put also the username and the password in the parameters, as you see on top, which we have stored as constants. And once we run that, then you're going to see, okay, it takes some time, of course, to run, but once it's there, you see there's another record, which is from IDM, and this was inserted from the run inside the console. So you see basically absolutely the same approach or the same behavior of this web service without changing it, without doing anything, just running it from inside the identity management. All right, so this concludes the demo. Let me go back to the presentation. I think this was actually the last slide. Just let me remind you again that after the presentation, you're going to receive an email where you can log into your tests, and if you manage to get 7 out of 8 answers correctly, then you're going to receive a certificate. Additionally, this webinar is going to be recorded, and you'll be able to watch it later on academy.ibsolution.de. Thank you so much for your attention. Now would be the time for some short questions and answers. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I'm sorry that we didn't have time to show all the demos, but this could be something which, if you're interested in additional information, we can make a separate presentation for that. So let's give you, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes. If you have some specific questions, or as I said, you can always contact us afterwards, and maybe you can review the webinar once again in the academy.ibsolution.de website for further questions. And of course, don't forget to do your tests and get a certificate for that. Okay, in case there are no questions, thank you so much once again for your participation and for your attention. I hope you had a better view and a better understanding now from IDM and the things that it can actually do better. And I'll be looking forward to your feedback, and see you soon in the next webinar. Bye-bye.